step by step how to make psychedocious patches with me, Lift Green Jeans.
Okay guys, so as I promised, I'll try to kind of walk you through step by step of my patch making process. First step is to steal yourself an image from the internet, and then we are going to take our hoop and put it on my screen like that, and I just trace out my image onto my cloth. Honestly, I don't understand why anybody buys patterns at all when you can just do this that easy.
Okay, now that I have gotten my outline done, I already went ahead and started doing some of my fill. The way that I fill is I just do a chain stitch. I tried doing the big stitches that span like across the whole length of the section or whatever, but I just was never satisfied with it. And I also like with these chain stitches that you can do like a circular fill to spiral into the middle, but since this guy is the way he is, you can see that I've actually gone ahead and just done lines all the way down and waited to do my turnaround until I get down here. I just thought that would give a better melting effect. I'm gonna go ahead and do my fill, and that's it. I mean, like, there's not a whole lot to explain here. It's just a simple chain stitch. I go up or down through, stitch, and then I just come back through, and I just make sure that I'm cutting all of my stitches roughly in half. And I like to keep everything nice and tight. Like, I will actually hold my hoop up to the light to see if there's any holes or thin spots, because that's one thing I want with these patches, is to be super durable. So what I'll do is, like in this instance, you can see there's just ever so slightly a spot there. I'll actually pull that sucker over, get down in the middle of it, and that way it kind of squanches up against the previous line there, and you can see there's a lot less of a gap to worry about. Anyway, that's about all there is for filling. I'll go ahead and I will fill all of this, and then we will just go ahead and jump cut to the future again, and I'll show you guys how to deal with the outline and then the final border. I wanted to stop at this point and show you how I like to do border. I went ahead and did my outline in this thin, just 3-strand, half an embroidered string, black, and then I do my fill and stuff. But I find the more border I do, the more well supported and durable it feels. I don't know how to describe it, but it's just a simple chain stitch. I decided on this guy because I'm playing with textures a lot in this dude. Like, I'm using full 6-strand on these dots and just 3-strand on his colors, you know, and the rest of his fill. And these motherfuckers, these gills I've done in just single strand. And as you can see, I've had to take some breaks because it makes my eyes go crossed. But I'm doing this white and black, kind of like I did with that big Rick patch. I just really like the way it makes it pop. I feel like everything's represented here. I've got all my colors, my black, my white, my grays, my browns. It's got it all. Even though I haven't really been satisfied with this patch, I've missed a lot of spots and it's taking more time than I wanted it to. I didn't feel like that with the last couple of mine, but I also did full strand stitchings on those, and this is the first one I've gone back to the 3-strand half string like I did with Rick, and I don't know, I like how it looks better, but man, is it a pain in the ass. Anyway, I'll quit rambling. I just wanted to stop at this point specifically, kind of show you how I do it. When I do these chain stitches, it's difficult because you don't want to overlap, but you don't want there to be any gaps at all, because when I go and do my final support border after I cut it out, you want that to be as tight as possible because that's going to hold your shape. But if these have any leeway in them, you'll end up pulling those apart and away from the main segment of your piece. So inevitably you're going to have to go through and do a couple of fill stitches on those guys. But yeah, I can't think of anything else to add at this point. If I do, I'll stick it in there somewhere. But the next step will be after I finish these 2 lines of border, go back and do any touch-ups and fills in the gills, and then I will cut it out and we'll be back. Well, for you, it won't be back anything. It'll just be a snap of a finger. But we'll cut back whenever I cut it out because there's some real particulars about that. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to mention. Another reason why I like to do big, thick, dual layer borders like this, especially in pieces like this. Another similarity he has to Rick are these, you know, voids that we have here, and I've never tried to cut them out or leave them open, but it just seems like it's going to be a huge pain in the ass if I was trying to do those big looping support borders at the end. So I'll end up filling them in, and I really like how they end up looking anyway. I'm kind of hoping that this guy has enough room to have my white and then a black and then a little dollop of white in the middle. I think it'll look really cool. Anyway, again, I'm rambling, but I'll go ahead and cut it here and we'll move on to cutting it out. Abracadabra. Now that's what I would call a magic mushroom. Like, I really ended up liking how it came out. Like, I was really skeptical at several points with this guy. But yeah, everything turned out good with my support border. I've gone around and around about what to do with this guy, but I think I'm just going to cut him out and leave him empty. I also want to do one of these because I'm really stoked with how these guys turned out. But there's not a lot to... I mean, I feel like there's not a lot to go over with cutting these out except for one big thing, and that's... whenever you come to one of these corners that come in like this, that's where you want to start. That's the first thing. And secondly, you just want to leave some areas to keep the tension. This is kind of crazy with the whole camera setup, but I'm going to try to at least do a little bit here, show you guys how I do it. I'm just using a regular razor, like a utility knife razor. I wish I had a nice X-Acto or something to do this with, but this will just have to do. Every time I've done this, I've always used a brand new blade, just because I know how frustrating it can get when your blade's even just a little bit dull, you know. Now, all this here, these fluffies here, don't worry about that. You can pick those out, and I take a lighter to them also. I'm really glad that I picked this fabric to do these with. This is just a tablecloth, but it's a poly cotton blend, so when I take the lighter to it, those little strands really... and if you notice here, I left this little guy here. That's just for tension. But I'm glad I chose a poly blend, because when I take the lighter to it, those little guys really go up quick, but also it kind of melts down, so you can actually light the edge on fire and it will melt down. Now see, I'm coming to this edge here, so instead of coming in on it, I'm going to try to come out on that one, and then come in on this one just barely. Right, just leave it, oh gosh, that was close. Leave a little bit there. Oof. See? Got too close right there. I guess I can just cut it on the edge of the hoop. Tell you what, I'm pretty dissatisfied with all the hoops that I've come across so far. This plastic one's the best I've come across, but man, those wooden ones, they just will not hold. I've gone through like 3 of them, and I just started doing this, gosh, maybe 2 months ago at this point. I'm gonna leave that guy there for tension. Ugh, I left a whole lot there. But I'm gonna leave some tension, a tension piece there. Really, I haven't left enough of them. And I'm not super worried about getting super close. Really, with this polycotton blend, I can get it to melt down so good that it doesn't really concern me. Alright. Now we're going to go back and we're just going to snip our few little support pieces. There we go. It's officially a patch now. Even though it's an unfinished patch, it's officially a patch. So, yeah, that's cool. I wonder what that guy's all about. Anyway, I want to go ahead and trim up my edges and get that support border on it just as quick as possible. I mean, I've never had one go terribly bad on me. It's just something I've been paranoid about ever since I've started doing this. Just the fear that it's just going to crumple up because I do it so tight. I tried to not go so tight on this one, and as far as a patch coming straight out and being flat, that's probably the best one I've had, even though it is a bigger patch, probably because I intentionally tried to do a little bit looser of a stitch on it, and I don't even know that it made that much of a difference. But let me go ahead and just show you how I use a lighter to clean this up. I'll go ahead and hit my stragglies, and this is another reason why I like to use the black on the outside, simply because it's not going to show up the soot and whatnot. And don't be worried if you do have a little showing like this. That's definitely going to cover up whenever. There's going to be a lot of stuff that gets covered up, like all of this. Like, I'm not super worried about getting tight in there, because by the time I get my support border in there, it's going to be pretty much filled in anyway. It's mostly those stragglers that are going to be a pain in the ass. Because I don't know about you, but I think that that last support border is just, it's the icing on the cake. It's what really makes it look like a well put together patch. And I've been really disappointed with some of my support borders in the past and really feel like they did injustice to the piece. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get started on my support border. I'm going to do the big bulk of it, and then I'll come back and kind of show you guys what I've done and if there were any complications or anything that came up that I thought maybe you should know, and show you the specific stitch that I use when I do it. So, yeah. Okay, I decided this would be a good spot to stop and show you guys this border stitch here. So, even though I don't need to stop, I'm going to show you how I would stop the line first. I'm going to show you the last thing first here. Oh gosh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in between the top and the bottom of the border line and just kind of stick it in there. And this is another reason I like this polyester cotton blend, because it kind of gets hard and holds onto this sucker pretty good. And I like to take it about an inch or so. We're just going to pull her on through. I know I probably didn't show that very good. And I'm not holding it down like I should. Through everything, anytime you put any tension on anything, you should always be holding it down to where you want your shape to be. Now that I got that through, I'm going to cut it off. And I don't want to cut it off all the way in. You want to leave just a little hair. You want to leave just a little hair of it sticking out. That way, whenever you get your stitch down here, it just holds on to it a little more securely. Now we'll go ahead and we'll restart, and this will be pretty much how you would just start your line from scratch. We're going to do the same thing, but when I come out, I want to come out on the bottom, close-ish to where we're going to want to start our stitch. We're going to hold her down, flatten our shape, and pull it through. And I'm going to just try to pull it right about as long as the other one. Gosh, usually I leave it a little longer because when you're doing all your tugging and stuff, you don't want to pull it through. But I'll just be really careful. Now, when I'm coming up in, you want to make sure that, I mean, it's like it's a delicate dance here because you don't want to go too far over. You're going to get a little bit of a hump, but if you come too far past, then you're going to have garbage showing. So I'm just going to kind of do my best to eyeball where it is. And this first stitch is going to kind of come across diagonally. Ugh, I'm not showing this very well. That'll have to do. Now, instead of coming this way, I'm going to come back to where I see this little white piece. I don't know if you guys can see this. That little guy showing. I'm going to go ahead and come past him. Like I said, have this thing kind of come catty corner across. Now, show you what I do. Now that I've come down, I've got this loop. You don't want to pull this loop all the way through and tight. You want to come and bring it down over your needle like this. Okay. Now that we're in our position, and alternatively, if you don't want to like drape it across the back like that, when you pull it through, you can loop it through like that. Now we're gonna, this is the most important part. Whenever you tighten this knot, you want to hold as much of your patch in the shape you want it to be as possible. And this is one of those things where it's like, you want it tight enough, but not too tight. And it's just kind of something you get used to. If you pull it too tight, you're going to have some material show through. But that's pretty much it. I'm going to keep working on this border, which was the whole reason I started this insanely long video. I thought it was going to be a 2 or 3 minute long video. It's going to end up being a 20-minute video or more. But I'll go ahead and just ride this pony out and show you guys the finalizing process with the heat bond and whatnot, just to kind of round it out. And then I may even throw a little segment after that of me kind of summarizing and giving my thoughts. I've also been thinking if I'm going to make this video, I might as well put it on YouTube so I can share it easier. And if I'm going to do that, I should probably show some of my other work. So after I finish this patch, I may just take a little break. Although that hasn't worked so far. I said that 2 or 3 times. Every patch I'm supposed to be taking a break, and I always end up just starting a new one, and then I'm up till 3 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up, and I'll be right back to show you guys the heat bond iron-on backing. Okay, well, we've done the border. Take a little look at that here real quick. It came out pretty well. Let's see if we can get a focus on her here. I would probably say this is the best border I've done. This guy right here was a little iffy, but I think he turned out okay. I even debated stitching that together because I end up doing that on this one here. Those guys are stitched together. I think that's going to end up for the best. Anyway, I mean, ironing these things on is just as easy as ironing it on for the most part. Like, sometimes it's easier than others. This one, I'm going to use a tool. You just line it up and you iron on. I like to let my iron kind of sit on there for a minute. Beautiful shot, I'm sure. Look at this iron. I think it's from 1952. I like to just let it sit. You'll see that it kind of starts to like get clearish and show through, and you can kind of feel from the heat. About the time it's almost too hot to touch is about the time that I'm gonna want to rock and roll. After it gets hot, you're gonna want to take a tool. I like to use the nice rounded edge of this dusty hairbrush. Now that it's softened up, I'm just gonna kind of gently rub around with this, although you want to be careful. You do not want to puncture that paper at this point. It'll just get on your iron and be a pain in the ass. But like you can see, I'm just gonna press that melty glue. Now you want to, between layers, you want to pop on YouTube and chill and really let these guys cool down, and while they're hot you want to press them down flat. Now, I've had better results when I leave it face, I just leave it face up. I got a fan right here I put it next to, and I let it cool that way rather than doing it like this, because if you do it like this, for some reason it wants to curl up, but it tends to lay flatter. And already just with that one layer, I can tell 99.9% of the warping's gone away. So I'm gonna pause this and come back after this is cooled and I've repeated that, you know. Okay, well, no, I'll let this cool and then I'll come back and show you the peeling, because that can be a little finicky too. Be right back. Okay, so we're cooled down. It's easy as just finding an edge that you can peel and peeling. This is actually suboptimal, because if you get little tiny pieces stuck on there, they're a real pain in the ass. Okay. Now, as you'll see, we're stuck with these little tabby tabs, and you can just peel them off with your fingers, which works for most of them. Sometimes I'll take a knife and clean the edge off, but really the reason I stopped at this point to talk to you is because you want to make sure to do this on every layer, because if you don't, you'll obviously have thicker, harder to peel sections, but what happens is while your second layer is heating up, these little flimsies here get warm, and then they will melt onto the edge of your securing border and look like shit. That's most of them. It's a big reason why I wanted these to be real close, and I sewed some of these little corners together, because that's going to be the hardest for you to peel off. But yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory, this whole process. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish up the heat bond iron-ons here, and then I'll come back with some final thoughts summary, I guess. I don't know. We'll just have to see. We'll learn together. And there we have it, our finished product. Everything turned out really well. I ended up giving it a scrub-a-dub last night, and it curled up a little bit. Not terrible, just a little. And then I let it dry overnight, and this morning I threw an extra layer of heat bond on it, and it flattened right out again. So that was good. Just slightly worried at that point. I don't have too terribly much to say. I did want to let you guys know that if you have any questions at all, or if you have any suggestions or advice, if you saw anything I could do better or differently, or have any tips or tricks, please let me know in the comments down below. I will also go ahead and put my email address in the description. If you're interested in purchasing this patch or any of my others, please don't hesitate to send an email. Please feel free to contact me if you have any interest at all. I think that's about it. I don't want to ramble any more than I have, so I'll just cut it out here. This was really fun to do. I really enjoyed the video making process. Really helped me think through what I was doing, and I think that, yeah, it was a positive experience all around, and I think that'll be it. So thanks again for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end here, and I'll check you guys in the next one.